This whole process is being leveraged, you might say, off of the green energy possibilities in this area. But you also have now, because of that, you brought in the big universities from eastern Massachusetts, and you also two very large and prosperous companies, EMC and Cisco. And if you're talking about leverage, you ought to leverage. We've got to leverage on those connections. They have the money to invest, and they are here, and those are the ones we need to develop. You have to leverage off of this. There's where the action is, in my opinion. Of course, all these things are important that you have here, but let's go where the action is. As they say, if you want to make money, go where the money is.
Yes.
Okay, we've spoken with EMC and Cisco, so we're not ignoring that path.
And you also have, BU and Harvard and all those places.
Yep, sure. Thank you.
The
Diane?
other thing that I think we need to leverage is been touched on several times, and it is a strength of the region, which is the small business community and the whole entrepreneurial sort of Pioneer Valley environment. And I think we need to capitalize it not only in the inner city, but in the region. And I think there's a movement coming, social entrepreneurship, which is doing well to do good, that is something that it's coming faster globally than it is locally. But I think we could capitalize on it locally and build on it, and it's a nice message that capitalizes on the green and all of the things that we've been talking about. So I hope somewhere somebody will do some research on what other communities are doing it successfully and well, and maybe help us to add to that support for that movement.
Don, I'm going to suggest, I know this gentleman has a question.
I think here, I'll make a suggestion for everybody is let's honor the task force time by powering through the next one, which it's related, it's target industries, resident industries, and then come back and we can, wrap up and take the remaining questions, but I want to be sure we honor the 4 o'clock. That's okay with everybody. So Dan?
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, a couple of the last comments are a perfect segue to our final and largest section, which is on industries and looking at some of the opportunities across a range, both specific industries as well as, Diane, your point about small business and entrepreneurial support and growth in that area. So just I'll try to run quickly through some data here. Manufacturing, a stronger share than the U.S. or Massachusetts, and especially in Holyoke still, but also in the region. One of the areas that is lower, in particular, well, a couple that are lower. One is construction, and I think that is reflective of the slower growth that we've had here. Another one is professional and technical services. So that's a range of lawyers, engineers, consultants, information folks, where Holyoke and the region are lower than Massachusetts, which has an advantage over the U.S. Education and healthcare is right up there, high, even higher as a share than the state. These are just we're looking at the region here. The data is a little bit stronger when you get to the county or the regional level than in terms of more detailed industry data. We were trying to look at some of the industries with the highest concentration on a relative basis, which basically means, well, here it is, paper manufacturing, and I know Holyoke City, the paper city, still a concentration. The 3.28 means that there's 3.3 times more people in that industry in the region than in the U.S. overall. As for the state, it's about average. That doesn't tell you whether it's growing or declining. I suspect it's declining. The second is looking at fastest growing industries, a different type of list. Quickly on the concentrations, we do see some other manufacturing, miscellaneous, fabricated metals, plastics, and rubber. Educational services is high here. Nursing and residential care facilities. Insurance, still a concentration with probably led by Springfield. Some of the faster growing, chemical manufacturing was a fast growing one in the region. Some arts and museums with strong growth. Computer manufacturing, hospitals, just to give a flavor of some of the industry trends. Largest employers, this is for Holyoke and the Pioneer Valley region. I'd say, if anything, it's dominated by some of the hospitals and education facilities in terms of largest employers. This is looking at jobs by occupation. Relatively higher on service, a little bit lower on management and professional. That's consistent with the other data we saw, and a little bit higher on the production and transportation, which gets to things like manufacturing and truck drivers and things like that. These last three are maps that we put together with help from the Western Mass EDC, who in parallel is looking at some industry cluster opportunities. This shows each dot represents an individual business, and the dots get bigger depending on the size of the company. This is for biomed and healthcare. The largest size circle are 100 or more employees, and we wanted to plot these to get a sense for where some of the existing establishments were in some of these different industry sectors that are being looked at by the EDC, but also coming up frequently in conversations as part of this study. We also mapped digital technology companies. There's a lot of them there. It's in some clusters in Amherst and Northampton, which is perhaps not surprising, but also in Holyoke and in Springfield and all around Springfield. The scale of these is different. The largest size here is only 20 or more employees, so a lot of these are smaller sized businesses. Manufacturing, and we tried, this isn't all manufacturing, this is actually a segment working with the John Adams Institute to try to define some higher value added specialized manufacturing categories, and a lot of manufacturing businesses. Again, I apologize that the scale is going back and forth, but the larger size circle is 100 or more employees here. Strong concentrations, especially in the Holyoke, Springfield area, also in Westfield. I lived in Amherst for 3 years. I did not realize that Northampton had as much manufacturing as it did, but it's there. Okay, there's a lot here because this is an important topic, because this is one of the key aspects of where our strategy is going, is trying to identify and see what we can do to improve opportunities for some target industries. So I'll run through this. The text is small, I apologize. Still some concentrations in manufacturing industries, and as Barry was saying, opportunities in manufacturing are not over, despite what you might have heard. I don't think we can expect it to have a renaissance back to the 1950s and 60s, but there still are opportunities in manufacturing. Eds and meds, that's a universally held strength, I think, in the region. Emerging cluster in digital technology, smaller sized firms, and then some new investments, not just the computing center here in Holyoke, but as part of the cluster, the Springfield Data Center that the state, and that's under construction, I believe, as we speak. Renewable energy, another area where there's the hydro, but there are other projects, in particular the ones that I've been hearing about are on the solar side. I know there's some others like on Mount Tom that are in the planning stage. Strengths, the 5 University Research Consortium commitment to the community. In our conversations, and John Goodhue is not here today, but Jeff Brancato is, we've talked quite a bit about how all of a sudden not only is UMass present in the region, but MIT, Harvard, BU, and Northeastern all have investments in the region. There's a research agenda that's underway. They're open to partnerships and looking for partnerships, as I understand, with the community. And that is something to continually work to better define what those opportunities are. key elements of the entrepreneurial ecosystem are present, you know, that I think has come up in just about every meeting as part of this strategy. And I keep thinking that if we're going to have an innovation district, that one of the things that needs to be included in some form is a way to nurture and grow innovative small companies. It seems like it needs to be part of where that strategy goes, and we're working together to better define that. Culture of customer service, and that can include the economic development delivery system and the permitting process that Barry mentioned earlier today. Fundamentals of state to regional local economic development, portfolio for companies that are looking to do green or sustainability and where that matters in their performance metrics. Weaknesses, there is a relatively low concentration in professional and technical services, both industries and occupations. Those have been some of the faster growth industries nationwide, certainly in Boston. It's one of the reasons I think that the growth rates in this region haven't been as strong, is that there hasn't been as much of a wave of growth in that area. Talked about the construction sector, a little bit smaller. One of the opportunities with this computing center project is that it is a big investment in downtown Holyoke, the biggest investment in quite some time, and an opportunity for the construction sector in different forms to be doing an innovative project. There are other investment projects like the Springfield Data Center, like Union Station redevelopment in Springfield. I know Greenfield has some innovative investments going on as well. And then the large employers, at least at the moment, concentrated in government, the retail, the mall area, healthcare. That's not, I guess where I was driving there is that there aren't as many large private sector employers, true private sector employers, you know, say in office or manufacturing or what have you.